This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I don't care where you go. Gambling and the lottery is how most people think about making money. It is one of the biggest scams put upon the average guy. Most of it's run by the government, too. I mean, the government puts people in these games that they can't win. But as ABBA so eloquently sang right there, and money, 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 that's what people dream about. That's what they dream about. Now, if they get to the point where they open up and they want to know something new, I'll give you an example of a composite conversation that I've had for years. It goes something like this. Somebody, hundreds of people, write me, "Why are you teaching trend following secrets?" My response, there are no secrets. There's only knowledge you don't yet possess. That's it. So whether you use my books, my podcast, my training, all of these are just options to gain knowledge that you don't yet possess. Now, today, I want to go into an interesting and educational clip. It's not going to sound like it at first, but an interesting and educational clip from my favorite network, CNBC. Somebody forwarded this to me, and I am going to go ahead and play it right now. I might interrupt occasionally here and there to add a little input, a little special Michael Covel input.
Rick, do you think the market sees the Fed, and I don't disagree with you that this would be healthy if it's for the right reason, but do you think the market believes that what we call the reaction function of the Fed, how they react to incoming data? I think as long as you're asking me, do I think the market's doing something for the right reasons? You're Venus and I'm Mars. The market could care less. The market doesn't look at reasons and strategies. That's not my question. But it is the only thing I can answer. Fed funds, it's not like they're looking at it and going, okay, let's sell Fed funds. I think here's the percentage from a year from next Wednesday. This is a reaction. This is position liquidation. Doesn't make you right. It doesn't matter what's right.
Let me interject. I do agree. It doesn't matter what's right. It's about making money. But let me interject with since we are entering the world of CNBC, just a little interjection from a young blonde-haired girl from many years ago in a famous film.
They're here.
She had it right, didn't she? Let me go back to him for a second. There's some really good points in this clip. Hold tight.
You know, just like when stocks went up, I didn't say it was right, but you cash your check. This is not about the Fed, and I think those that argue this should have philosophical discussions, not real world. My question to you is, does the market see the Fed as more hawkish than they did, I don't think the last couple of days anybody's glasses that's at the switch of real trading is really even thinking about the Fed, what iota. They're thinking about survival, trying to manage their positions and manage their risk. At some point, when the market calms down, I think they'll go back to looking at all those issues. But that's the discussion we're having here.
What's so good about that is he is saying it right. You know, people trading the market successfully, they're worried about their positions. They're worried about managing their risk based on their system. That's the objective. Now, I wish you could see this CNBC clip that I'm looking at. I guess you got this guy Santelli split screen on the right and this bald guy named Steve to the left. And he's got some, well, let me just let it play some more. Hold on.
Discussion we're having here at some point. No, that's your discussion. My discussion is to try to see which fire in which bedroom's the biggest to report to viewers which flames are going to continue to flame and which ones aren't.
Right. Talking of communication,
but that's just trading and investing, Mandy. That's the difference between trading and investing.
Now he's drawing a distinction between trading and investing. This is the bald guy to the left, Steve. There's no difference between trading and investing. They're the same thing. At least traders acknowledge they have an exit plan. Investors don't acknowledge they have an exit plan. Huge difference. But this guy's trying to say like investors, like it's something special to buy and hold and never exit. Nonsensical. Let me continue.
This isn't socialism. These are free markets and capitalism. Socialism would say, well, what does the central planner think? We don't care down here what Ben thinks.
You're
we care
so
if there's
wrong
enough
about
money
that, Rick.
to cover their
That's all
position.
they think about. It's amazing how you misread the very people who...
Actually, trend following traders don't care what Bernanke thinks. From a personal standpoint, I think it's awful public policy. But from a trading standpoint, nothing in a trend following trading system has anything to do with trying to understand how Ben Bernanke thinks. It's irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. It's Ozzy-esque irrelevant. It's going insane irrelevant. Whoever would have thought an aging rock star who's done way too many drugs that he can barely talk would actually know exactly how it all works? Let me go back to CNBC.
The very people who are behind you. That's what they think about. That's what they want to know about. That's the basis of the trade, Rick, is what Ben thinks.
Well, it certainly
really
feels like we
isn't,
hang on
Steve.
every
Sorry.
word that Ben says. I've got a question for you,
They
since
could
we're
care
setting
less.
everybody up here for the trading week. Steve, if you want communication from the Fed, we got communication. We've got 8 speakers lined up just this week alone.
I would
communication
quibble with
going to
you
be
too,
muddy?
Mandy. I think there's a difference between communication and talking.
Yeah, very
There's
true.
going to be a lot of talking. I'm not sure how much actual
Are we going to be
communication
more
is
or
gonna be.
less confused at the end of this week, though, after those 8 speakers?
I'm confused after the end of this conversation.
I think we're going to get some...
Only Fed watchers are confused. The market isn't confused at all.
Right. Rick, it's hard to even know where to begin with that comment. That's what they're watching down there. That's the basis
They're
of the
not
trade.
watching
If they
anything.
did-
He's so right. The market's not confused. The market's just the market. Whatever the price is the price. Don't worry about it. You can't do anything about it. Just follow along. Follow along. This guy, Steve, is so out of his league. Doesn't have a clue. Does not know what he's talking about. And I think what's so interesting is the propaganda element here. Is just to see the split screen and you see this guy, Steve. He's in a suit, nice suit. He's got a teleprompter he's reading that you can't see. In the background are a bunch of graphics that insinuate important. He's got a nice tie on, nice blue shirt. He's looking straight at the camera. He absolutely has no clue about what he talks about. He doesn't get the fact that traders just look at what the market is doing right now. And he's talking about they're trying to divine the intention or understanding of Ben Bernanke's brain. It's like being in John Malkovich's brain, completely irrelevant. Or they actually sit down before this and they develop a script, a storyline. And this is where it kind of gets nefarious because I think this is somewhat true. They sit down and they develop a script, a storyline about how they will argue with each other. And of course, then they go to commercial. You watch the commercial. Then they get ad dollars to come into the network that way, et cetera, et cetera. But you almost wonder, is he that obtuse? Does he have no clue? Or is it just a scripted debate that they do in advance? And when they go off, they both laugh about how they pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Let me let this continue. There's only a few more seconds here to finish.
They're reacting. They're reacting. Do you think when a baseball player hits one out of the park, he thinks about all the issues of his body? No, he just goes with it. That's the way real traders operate. They go with it.
He's so right about that, right? Real traders just go with it. And he didn't get a chance to finish his sentence. But what he really meant to say is that real traders just go with the flow. They go with the flow. That's trend following. Trend following is waking up each day and saying, what's my portfolio? What markets are in my portfolio? Okay, do I have any entry signals? Do I have any technical entry signals? And if I do, I take those. Now I have to size my position. What will be the percentage? What will be the sizing that I will do based on my capital? We all have limited capital. Based on my limited capital, how will I size my position? How much will I put on? so I don't put myself in a position to go broke. And then before you ever take the entry signal, before you ever size your position, you have already thought through 2 different types of exits. The exit that will get you out with a win and the exit that will get you out with a loss. This is what this guy Santelli, who was on the right, who was kind of screaming a little, even though he was screaming, he was right on. I know sometimes people hear screaming and they think, I can't even digest what he's saying. He's screaming. Well, actually, the guy that was screaming in that clip was the guy that was spot on, and the guy that was talking very pragmatically didn't really know what he was talking about at all. And that's the tricky thing for you out there, is you have to sort through all the information. You have to sort through my information. Is Michael Covel accurate? Am I accurate? Am I accurate in what I point out as the issue to consider, the issue to debate? Let me add to the mix here with something a little bit different. Because ultimately what the guy that was screaming, Santelli, was getting at, even though he wasn't really saying it, is it's about science. It's not about trying to understand Bernanke. It's about the science of what the market is doing. So I'm going to read from a blog from Sean Carroll. And he says, there's an old parable. Not sure if it comes from someone famous I should be citing, or whether I read it in some obscure book years ago, about a lexicographer who was tasked with defining the word taxi. Thing is, she lived and worked in a country where every single taxi was yellow and every single non-taxi car was blue. Makes for an extremely simple definition. She concluded, taxis are yellow cars. Hopefully the problem is obvious. Well, that definition suffices to demarcate the differences between taxis and non-taxis in that particular country. It doesn't actually capture the essence of what makes something a taxi at all. The situation was exacerbated when loyal readers of her dictionary visited another country in which taxis were green. Outrageous, they said. Everyone knows taxis aren't green. You people are completely wrong. The taxis represent science. What do I mean? Well, Sean gives a nice continuation in his blog. And he says, essentially, science consists of the following 3-part process. Number 1, think of every possible way the world could be. Label each way in a hypothesis. Number 2, look at how the world actually is. Call what you see data or evidence. Number 3, where possible, choose the hypothesis that provides the best fit to the data. So those are the 3 choices. Now let's just take the one guy, Steve, who was talking about Bernanke. Think of every possible way the world could be. Label that a hypothesis. Well, trying to divine Bernanke's thoughts is a hypothesis. That is one way that perhaps making money is done. Now look at how the world actually is. Now, can you find anybody that produces data that shows they can read Bernanke's mind to make money? Remember, look at number 2. Number 2 is look at how the world actually is. Call what you see data or evidence. How is the world actually? There is no evidence that anybody can divine the intentions of the Federal Reserve Chairman to make profitable money-making decisions. I know of no evidence. If you do, please send it along to me. I will stand corrected. I've not seen it. Maybe you have inside information. Maybe you have illegal inside information. Fine, be it. That's not what we're talking about here. Number 3 of this little what makes up science, 3-part process. Number 3, where possible, choose the hypothesis that provides the best fit to the data. Now think about the debate from the 2 guys from CNBC. One guy is saying, just look at the market price. The other guy is talking about divining the intention of some man's mind. Where possible, choose the hypothesis that provides the best fit to the data. See, when you break this down, when you get past the subterfuge, you get past the crazy statements and the rambling dialogue that's been generated onto a teleprompter on CNBC or CNN or Bloomberg or whatever. When you get past it and you try and break it down to its essence, to a number, something you can measure, something you can count, you can't do it with opinions. You can't do it with subjective thoughts. You can only do it with the reality that we know, which is the market price. The market price is how, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, you look at your portfolio. It's how you go ahead and wait for your entry indicators, how you size your position, how you go ahead and prepare for your exits before you ever enter. It's kind of cool, isn't it, right? It's kind of fun and exciting to kind of look at the world this way. I know I've covered some territory in this podcast, throwing Poltergeist in there and ABBA and Ozzy. But I just want to make the point, because sometimes I think people get so serious about this, they don't even look through the haze. They don't even look through the fog and say, what's really going on here? Let's break this down to science. The most successful trend-following trader alive today, David Harding. He's a scientist. He breaks it down to science. Look, we're all scientists. We all love that as kids. I actually happen to have won the science fair when I was in 7th grade for periodontal disease. As a side note. I didn't expect to win, actually. It was kind of a surprise. So when I break it down and I go through this whole process of this little episode here, and to get you to think about science and think about trend following from a scientific perspective, I'm showing you the light. I'm showing you the light. You can either come to the light or go away from the light. It's your choice. Now, but from a science standpoint, you have to ask yourself, go look at my words, see if they match up with the data. Don't just listen to my passion. Don't just listen to my enthusiasm. Go see that it matches up with the data. And then you have a choice to make. You can either come to the light, go away from the light. That's your choice. And speaking of the light, let me get back into an excerpt, a film excerpt that I've already cited in this podcast, but a different scene in the film, a different scene, a fun scene. It's all about the light.
Caroline? Honey, do you see a light? Shh. Shh.
Tell her to go to the light.
No!
They'll follow her. They've been following her for weeks. Now tell her
It's
you
all
have
right,
to
it's
do
all
what I
right. Tell her,
say.
Diane. Run to the light, Caroline. Run as fast as you can. No, honey,
Tell
no.
her you are.
No, it's a lie.
You can't choose between life and death when we're dealing with what is in between. Now tell her before it's too late.
Run to the light, baby. Mommy is in the light.
Tell her you're waiting for her.
Mommy is waiting for you in the light. I hate you for that.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.